Okay, so I'm gonna do my report out here, going through the hero's journey. The first time I did one of these report outs was probably a few years ago. Thought it would be a good idea to go through the process again and review kind of what I've learned in the past year and how things have changed, and how I expect things to go forward from here. So let's get started. So step one, ordinary world. So the creative who built everything but a pipeline. So I was a long time creative in the creative industry, about 30 years, and everything I did was always founder-led sales, built on relationships, reputation, and referrals. A model that worked, but it had a timeline baked into that. The old model wasn't wrong, but it just assumed that there was infinite time as a resource. Building with intention towards scale requires engineering a revenue engine deliberately, not sitting back and letting it happen organically. So step two, call to adventure. So move on. So the question that had never been asked, what does a business have to look like when the goal is to scale and not wait for growth to happen on its own? What is the single constraint between where you are and where you need to be? The past version of myself and assumptions around business growth had to be left in the past. So step three, refusal of the call and telling myself what I wanted to hear. So the refusal wasn't just creative instinct, it was loyalty to a founder-led organic model that had genuinely worked before. And the problem was the goal had outgrown it. The Embark refraction pathway scorecard, I get a very strong score whenever I take that scorecard because the environment was conducive to people growing and performing their best. Step four, meeting the mentor, Larry, Aaron, George, and the method. So Larry is a bi-weekly mentor, the primary catalyst whose consistent outside perspective kept asking the question, the creative identity was deflecting, and finally forced the commercial blind spot to surface. Aaron, a sales guru and role model of mine, we pre-read each other's work, exchange what's going on, what's working and what's not working in the world, what's changing. The validation was sitting in that relationship all along. And then George, weekly Harada coaching, accountability, weekly refinement of tool use, and consistent pulse that incrementally raised performance each week, along with critical feedback when it was needed. Crossing the threshold, when I embraced sales. So the scorecard in Embark was not designed to specifically call out the lack of a dedicated sales team. Following our way of doing things by experimenting, I prototyped a sales version of the scorecard based on the same 30 focused areas, but I rewrote the questions to evaluate on the capability and the capacity to perform sales well. I decided to stop outsourcing the sales identity to a future hire or to when the timing is right, and to own it right now. I built the first outbound infrastructure we've ever had, started an outbound sales campaign, qualification framework. I used AI to aid in personalization and prospecting meeting time blocks on my calendar for the first time. And step six, tests allies and enemies, relearning at 50. The belief was deep rooted. I thought inbound leads was earned and respectful. Outbound was interruption and imposition, and even legislate. Can we edit this one too? Legislated by government even. Every prospecting attempt carried the discomfort of acting against a professional identity that had been built over 30 years. My fear about hearing someone say no, be rude, or just not show up was holding me back from doing it anyway. The real enemy wasn't the activity of sales. It was the stuck mindset that sales activity was beneath what I thought the brand stood for. And step 7, innermost cave, turning the tool on yourself. So I mentioned the beta experiment. I reframed the 30 refraction pathway scorecard questions to be sales specific. It talked about prospecting, pipeline, conversion, follow through. And the result, I scored just 47% on the sales version of the scorecard. It highlighted the gap that I knew was there, but I needed some kind of tangible evidence to feel like I should act upon it. 30 focus areas, 30 reflective questions, complete clarity on what needed to change, in what order, and why it needed to happen immediately. Step 8, ordeal, the conversation that changed the frame. So in February 2026, about the second week of that month, was the first prospect conversation I ever had. I had some no-shows, I had some complete jerks, but I also some grateful entrepreneurs that had been stuck on the same problem for years. They weren't guarding their time. They were relieved that someone recognized the pattern and knew what to do about it. The frame shifted. Not reaching out doesn't protect the brand. It leaves people in problems you can help them solve, which improves their lives and maybe the lives of everyone around them. Step 9, reward. Change started to take hold. So after 75 days of prospecting, I ended up having 34 meetings scheduled, which is a 20x improvement over what we would have had before running this campaign. The fiscal year is currently at 4.5 times more of what it was this time last year. And it's not from prospecting alone, but every pillar in the 64 chart is kind of rising the tide. There was also a sort of 2x2 matrix insight that I had of market fit and sale complexity are distinct axes. So mismatching your go-to-market channel with where your business sits is one of the most common reasons that good businesses could stall. Now I could refine that and lean in. The road back, step 10, the way how evolved. So now I have 4 open window 64 charts, one for each of the 3 businesses and one personal that kind of bakes it all in with my personal home life with family and friends included. Plus the refraction pathway rhythm with 30 tools, which include the 5 Harada forms, connecting long-term goals to daily priorities across every business simultaneously. Book club, I have 2 books every month that are selected to push beyond my current comfort zone, with a monthly aha review with a group to help extract and retain any key insights from those books, learning as an intentional and continuous system. Plus 3 deliberately chosen people, the role model, where the journey is headed, the coach, raising weekly performance ceiling, and the mentor is my blind spot detector, consciously evolving an environment for increased performance, contribution, and a sense of fulfillment. Step 11, resurrection, blindsided by opportunity and abundance. So eyes wide open. Sales and customer conversations lead to better understanding and opportunities that I may never have discovered otherwise. Market fit exploration. So this led to uncovering maybe a new potential ICP or ideal customer profile that maybe has 100 times larger account size potential than the ICP I was going after. And I could actually deliver 100 times faster for this different ICP than I could the one that I was targeting. And a belief that everything can be improved, but you have to be looking for it. And finally, step 12, return with the Elixir, grow with intention. So with Embark, that's my first book I published this year in summer of 2025, and my continued use of the refraction pathway, which pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and I discovered new ways to take bigger leaps forward and make decisions faster. The full operating system with 4 64 charts, the refraction pathway rhythm, strategically reading books with monthly aha reviews, writing new books brings even more understanding, 3 deliberately chosen people, the role model, coach, and mentor, each selected to push me further and expose blind spots. And finally, the Elixir, expanding what I think and do, curating my environment, including the people, to keep me living just beyond my comfort zone and to continue to grow by staying creative. Thank you. That's it.
Hey, Tom, do you have any questions you want to start?
You learned a lot on this, right, Kyle? On the using the 64 chart and learned a lot about the processes and everything that you were using. What was one of the more important, I guess, lessons that you learned?
I guess I feel like I probably learned so much. There was too much I learned to put into a report out. So I focused on just the embracing sales, which is something I always felt polarized against. But something that I learned that I think made a massive difference in taking that step forward, which felt like a leap, but it was reducing the expectations down to a level that there was no fear or even sense of it being a difficult step to take. So whether it was like wanting to do 20 minutes on the treadmill every day and deciding after 3 or 4 months of not stepping on it once, changing the goal to 1 minute, which got me on the treadmill that day. And if I thought about sales in a similar way, it would have been going from setting up an entire prospecting campaign to find somebody that does it. And I ended up finding 3 people that do that, right? So instead of looking at it something that was felt insurmountable or a very large project, one of the 3 people I mentioned in my report out, my coach George, for example, who's on this call, has reminded me from time to time to break things down into smaller parts. Make sure that if it's on my 64 chart, maybe it's something for me within the context of what I do. It shouldn't be anything that should take more than 2 weeks to complete. It shouldn't be something that's 2 months or 2 years on there for me to know that I can get it done and keep on building on something. So I think lowering my expectations, doing something that I know I can do and it gets me started, then I start to roll and build momentum. But when the goal seems too big, I procrastinate and I push it off. And I just know that about myself. So if I can design my tasks or my expectations to a level that I can jump in and start moving, that works for me.
Kyle, thank you so much for doing this report out. It's been a few years now, and I asked you, would you consider doing a report out again? Because you've been at it a while, very consistent, and you've had breakthrough after breakthrough. This one that you talked about was focusing on your ideal customer profile, which is 100x times the customer you were focusing on before. Tell me some of the specifics. How did you get there? How did you break through that ceiling? Because we all have our self-imposed limitations.
So it was actually speaking with people that didn't fall into my target ICP to see what that discussion could reveal. So I had no expectations going in. It was actually someone that called me to sell me. I flipped it around and told them what I was selling, and it turned out to maybe be a fit. Even though they weren't within my ICP, I discovered that there's actually a need that they had that I could probably fulfill with the product I had with a small tweak.
That's amazing. Now, you know what comes to mind is that video by Pixar, I think, called Robots, or Disney, I don't know, Robots. And the statement was, find a need, fill a need. And you can only do that through some conversation, like who did you lose as a customer or who's not a customer, and you're going to the Gemba, people who might actually need what you want, and you're learning. So you did it through learning. That's really good. And then what did you do? How did you convert that to be your new ICP? What was the methodology you used?
Well, it was just looking at comparing that ICP against the friction we have with the current ICP. And I was considering the friction that we had was a good friction, where it's helping identify who is this for and who is it not for. So I was considering if people aren't jumping on and buying it, or it's a long sales cycle, it might be because it's the right type of friction, where maybe it's a high enough price point that not everybody's going to buy, or it's a specific enough pain point that we're solving, so it's not going to apply to everybody. But in this instance, I realized that there's also a friction to market, that it could take me a year to prep for a new market that I wanted to go after. So when I sort of stumbled onto this conversation and realized that this ICP actually has everything I need to go to market turnkey, and they have an audience size that's 100 times the target I was going after, it just seemed to take an existing friction away that I thought was just a natural requirement, to realize if I went after a different target customer, that friction would disappear.
Yeah, that's excellent. Okay, now this learning does transcend sales. That's what I'm thinking. What would you say the learning is for somebody who's not in sales but can use the same idea or concept?
Talking to your customers, talking to existing long-term customers, ones that you've lost, ones that you've won, people that aren't your target customer, and just have conversations to explore how other people perceive what you're doing and where they might even see a fit in the world. And you might realize that there's a lot more opportunity out there than you knew before.
Wonderful. All right, we want to take routines and turn them into habits. Is there a habit to be had here? And maybe what's the smallest routine we can take outside of sales, or even within sales, to explore this and really raise our thinking?
I think talking to one customer, one supplier, or one new person every day, week, month, quarter, whatever cadence you feel like you can start with, to start there. I think most business owners probably aren't talking to enough customers. They're just trying to keep up with the task list day by day, right? So by pushing that as a priority, it will, again, make tomorrow more important than today.
Yeah, really good. So here's a pie. 100% of our time as business owners is kind of in the business, but you got to carve off that at least 5% of your week and use that for discovery, learning, reflection, all of that great stuff. So I don't care how you do it, right? That's the key. And that will raise your thinking, that will raise your potential. And if you practice enough, you'll get there.
And I think you'll also realize the more people you talk to, the more you realize you didn't know. And there's a lot more opportunity through that discovery and that learning, those conversations, than assuming you know what there is to know.
Yeah, wonderful. Your video is going to be in our app. So for the group in the app that watches the video, what do you suggest? Can they connect with you in the app?
Sure.
Okay. Rock and roll. That'll be the call to action. Call to action, get in the app, connect with Kyle, say hello. Anything else, Kyle, you want to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so, other than that I will put it on my calendar to do this May next year as well.
Absolutely, every year. And this is like wonderful because you're a certified Harada coach, and these videos will end up going to Japan. So every year, it'd be great to have this as our new standard. And I'll share this with the group. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, George.
Okay, bye-bye.